A little past 7 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and start. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome everybody to both the public hearing and the council meeting for August 6th of 2019. Please stand. Well, I'm sorry. That's not right. To be held in the board meeting of Independent School Administration Building at 3rd and Clay in Dayton, Kentucky. The purpose of the public hearing is to discuss road improvements and obtain comments from the public regarding the spending of municipal aid funds. So now we'd like to open the public hearing.
Yep, thank you, Mayor. At this point, if anybody has any comments in regards to the spending of municipal road aid money, feel free to come to the podium and address council. If not, I will go into my brief report. Okay. We have two items that we're going to put on the fall paving list, and they're both going to be done in tandem with utility companies in the area. The first is a project we're doing with SD1, which you'll learn a little bit more about tonight when we get to the orders. There's a project at the top of Urban Terrace in Belmont where we're working with them on a cost share program. They're going to be ripping up the street to putting a new line, and at the same time we're going to try to get in 3 or 4 new catch basins to help capture some of the storm water that's causing some issues downhill. We're expecting that cost to be around $30,000, split 50-50 with SD1, so our portion will be $15,000. And then kind of staying in the area, the Northern Kentucky Water District is going to be doing a water main replacement up and down Irvin Terrace. At the same time that they're digging into the street, they're going to be fixing some of the sidewalks and curbs that have been undermined from several water main breaks. What they won't fix, we also want to get in and try to help alleviate some of the problems as well. We don't know the exact cost of that yet. They're still bidding out their portion of the project. When they bid that portion, we'll get with the contractor to figure out what isn't being done, and we'll fill in the pieces. I would anticipate that costing probably around no more than $35,000. I think that's probably a little high on our end, but I'm being a little conservative on the numbers. So that would be both projects combined. What I'm asking for tonight would be $50,000 spent for municipal road aids for those 2 projects. At this point, I'll entertain any questions that the City Council may have.
So this would be repaving after the underground work is done?
The water company will be repaving most of the road.
Okay.
Most of our work is going to be curb and sidewalk work that they're not going to classify as done on behalf of the water main. We're kind of making the argument that most of it is. We're just waiting to see what portions they're actually going to fix. And whatever's left over, we're going to try to bulk up the curbing system so that the water isn't jumping into these roads.
And this is from 10th up to Belmont?
Correct. Correct.
And is this both sides, east and west?
The water main is going in mostly on the west side. It does kind of zigzag a little bit. Most of the work that they're going to be doing repair-wise is on the side. And that's kind of the slope of the hillside is where most of the water channels is towards the east.
Have they indicated where these new catch basins are going to be? Like?
Up on Belmont, we identified, gave them a general idea of where we thought they would best go is.
Any other comments from council? So Mr. Gibbons asked for $50,000 from the paving fund, road fund, to be allocated. Would anybody like to make that motion?
Actually, Mayor,
yes,
you'll have to make that in regular meeting.
All right.
Close the public hearing, and then once you start the regular meeting,
Thank you, sir.
you can make that request.
So no more comments, so the public hearing is closed. So now I'd like to open up the regular meeting. So Ms. Donna, can I please have a roll call?
Yes. Mayor Baker?
Here.
Member Bolter?
Here.
Member Neary?
Here.
Member Baszler?
Here.
Member Cornett? Member Burns?
Here.
Member Lynn?
Here.
City Administrator Giffen?
Here.
City Attorney Edge?
Here.
Now, if we could please rise for prayer and pledge. Everybody, during our moment of silence here, please remember our sister city of Ohio. They've had a rough week, and we stand with them. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I believe Mr. Parsons, one of the attorneys that works alongside our city, has a presentation he would like to deliver.
Figured you'd want to talk about your,
Oh,
what we're putting on tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Members of council and mayor, thank you for allowing us to be here tonight. I'm Jim Parsons with the law firm Keating, Youth and Clecamp. And later on your agenda, and unless you're going to take it up now, there is a bond inducement resolution on which you've actually, many of you may be familiar with. It's basically a bond inducement resolution to authorize. It doesn't authorize the issuance of bonds. It just expresses your intent to potentially issue bonds for some additional projects on the Manhattan Harbor project in Dayton. The Manhattan Development Group is now engaged in developing a multi-phase development for residential development on the riverfront. And it will actually involve a significant number of different housing mixes, from condos to multifamily to other type of housing. They've actually presented, I think, their plans to the Planning and Zoning Commission and things. I think you're looking at a potential development of about 980 or so housing units overall. And what we're anticipating doing is utilizing, if the council approves, an industrial revenue bond mechanism that would provide some additional incentive to the project in certain tax incentives. It would not affect anything that would be coming to the city of Dayton, because you're actually under the TIF concept. We would be provided 100% pilot payment to the city, so you can keep the 20% you're supposed to under the TIF, and then 80% of it could be going into the TIF to cover those expenses relative to that. This is exactly the same process we utilized for the Arlington project, which is under construction. It doesn't have any impact on the city's credit. These are bonds that are totally the responsibility of the project. What we would like to do is have the project at least induced, and then go to the state and local debt officer for approval. This type of bond, we have to have one additional layer of approval for that, and so we don't anticipate any issues there. It's a statutory requirement we have to go through. We'd like to get that out of the way. As part of this process too, we also are working and will need to work out an agreement in lieu of taxes. This agreement is conditioned upon that being negotiated. Primarily that agreement, because the city's part of that will be 100% payment, but we will be needing to discuss and get approval from the Dayton Independent Board of Education. Without their approval, quite frankly, we wouldn't, in their assistance in moving that project forward, we probably wouldn't use the bond approach. But this allows us to start that process working with them. They were very helpful with the Arlington project, and I think we had a project in a program that was beneficial to the project as well as the school district. And so we've had some discussions with the superintendent and their attorney. We still have to work those issues out. I don't want to represent well we may be in place with the school district relative to that. But basically, this is kind of the first step to start that process to allow the project to be a $120 million inducement resolution. But the bonds are not the debt of the city. We have no responsibility for the payment. You're looking at a potential total development down there of about $180, $90 million with the full build out of what we're talking about. And any consideration you can give. The reason we're looking for some additional incentives is that even though there's been a lot of work and infrastructure work on that riverfront, and there's still, most of the time when you are building on the riverfront, you still need to put an appearing system in for individual projects, and it's proven to be fairly expensive. That's why Arlington needs some additional incentive, and some of these other projects we're building right on the river even though that there's been a lot of infrastructure put in, and the city has been very supportive of this project, and still, there is some additional incentive to make these projects work. And so that's basically the presentation I have for you. I think the developer has presented to the planning commission several times and has met with city staff on the overall build of the project.
Thank you, sir. And I believe that's all covered underneath 2019 number 13R.
That's correct.
Ms. Ledger, would you please read ordinance number 2019, number 13R?
City of Dayton, Kentucky, resolution number 2019-13R. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Dayton, Kentucky, authorizing the execution of a memorandum of agreement between the city and Manhattan Development Group LLC relating to the acquisition, construction, equipping, and installation of a multi-phase residential development project to be located in designated downtown business district of the city, the project. Agreeing to undertake the issuance of industrial building revenue bonds at the appropriate time to pay the cost of acquiring, constructing, equipping, and installing said project and facility, and taking other preliminary action.
Thank you very much. So with that reading, does anybody from City Council would like to make a motion to accept 2019 number 13R?
I move to accept 2019-13R.
Motion was made by Member Bolter, seconded by Member Lynn. What type of comments would be made from the City Council?
Mr. Parsons, 980 units you mentioned.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
And these are the plans that were presented to council about 4 months ago, Michael?
Yes.
And the developer on this is?
This Manhattan, I can't even speak tonight, Manhattan Development Group LLC. Actually, they're the master development. They will be working on each specific phase. There'll probably be some different investors relative to that. But they'll be different, so there'll be different investor groups. But there will be the common theme, common development, because they're the master developer. They were involved in the development of I think the Gateway project. At least part of this member group has been involved in that specific development.
And your next step then is working with our school board?
Next step is working with the superintendent and working out an agreement with relative to the payment in lieu of taxes agreement, and then also then moving on to the state for their approval.
Understood, thank you. Just wanted to clarify that.
Any other comments from council? We have a motion and a second. Donna, will you please have a roll call vote?
Member Neary?
Aye.
Member Baszler?
Aye.
Member Burns?
Aye.
Member Lynn?
Aye.
Member Bolton?
Aye.
You guys have it.
Thank you very much.
2019-13 passes.
Appreciate getting on the agenda early.
Not a problem, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time, Tim. Now we'd like to open up the podium for comments and from the audience. So if anybody would like to approach City Council, please approach the podium, state your name and your address.
This is general comment, right?
Oh, yeah, sure. Please, feel free.
My name is Nathan Traeger. This is Jacoba Wells. We live at 306 5th. We just moved here and we wanted to say hi. We also purchased the property at 526 6th Avenue. It's a commercial space. We're open for business. So we basically just wanted to introduce ourselves, and that's pretty much it. Thanks.
Welcome. Thank you.
Welcome to Dayton. Happy to have you.
I'm good to meet you.
Question.
Southern
What about your business? Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Oh, Southern Foods.
It's just we're just leasing that space, so we just wanted to put the word out that anybody who's wanting to open a business, we're ready to go. There's signs in the front, and find us out if you want to talk. So, yeah, thanks.
Happy to have you.
Good evening. My name is Keith Haithcock, and I am the pastor of St. John United Church of Christ in Bellevue. And your mayor told me that I could make a few statements, and I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and the council persons here. I appreciate the time. Got some friends here. A few members of our church who live in Dayton are here with me tonight. This is an open letter to the City Council of the City of Dayton, Kentucky. And it comes from the Northern Kentucky Greater Cincinnati Region Clergy Group of the United Church of Christ. As authorized ministers in the United Church of Christ, we want you to know that we support the action that you are taking to promote fair treatment and equal opportunity for all persons in the city of Dayton, Kentucky. It is our belief, a belief that is grounded in a deep study of our Holy Scriptures and years of ministerial experience serving a denomination that welcomes all, that none of the categories named in ordinance number 2019-14, including gender identity, sexual orientation, and familial status, impede God's ability and willingness to love us just the way God created us. As followers of Christ, we take seriously the love commandment of Jesus to love God with our whole being and to love our neighbor as ourselves. When the City Council educates yourself and the broader community about the importance of fair treatment and equal opportunities for all persons, we believe you are living out that commandment. When the City Council speaks out against all manner of bullying and hate in our community, we believe you are living out that commandment. And when the City Council implements policies that promote fair treatment for all persons, including LGBTQ persons and citizens, we believe you are living out that commandment. While we understand that Scripture is sometimes interpreted and God's name is often invoked for the purposes of judgment and hate, we believe that God is an inclusive God of unconditional love who loves us all. We are all part of God's creation, and that makes us all equal children of God. Thank you for the brave stance that you are taking, and know that we stand beside you in the spirit of a loving God. There are 21 signatures from local United Church of Christ ministers who signed this, and we are grateful for what you are doing and hope that all goes well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Sandy Carlin, I'm from Covington, Kentucky, and I was a member of the Human Rights Commission in Covington when we passed the Fair Rights Ordinance in 1999. And I'm also a member of St. John United Church of Christ. And I just wanted to say that I think it's one of the best and most progressive things that Covington did that had a lot to do with where they are now, and which is in a very positive place with a lot of creative things going on in the communities. And I would like to offer myself as a free consultant, if I can be of help in any way, as you all move toward helping Dayton become a city that welcomes everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carlin.
And just briefly, my name is Ken Whitinger. I'm one of the signatories in the letter that Pastor Keith just read. Not long ago, I was a student pastor at St. John in Bellevue, serving this community. I know this to be a loving community, and just want to echo my thank you to you all as a council for considering this. I learned first of this ordinance last week, Mayor, when I heard you interviewed on Cincinnati Edition. And Michael Monks asked you the question, what do you expect would happen this evening? And your response, that as I recall, was that you would meet, you would consider this ordinance, and afterward you would go get tacos.
Those are available, sir.
I name that because I think that that's important. I think that it's important for us to come together as a community around tables, whether they're tables of tacos or tables of ordinances, to consider all in our community and to think about the communities that we are together in this entire region created. So again, I thank you to the council for the consideration of the ordinance.
Thank you, sir.
I talked about that.
That's a tough act to follow. Good evening, folks. I'm not here to, well, first of all, I'm Tom Dilch, 1200 Urban Terrace. I'm not here to debate Joe's rain numbers the last 2 years or to throw anybody under the bus. However, I am here to talk about water, and I will try to be very brief. But I did want to discuss some things that are concerning to me and my property. Brief history. We built that property in 1997 at 1200 Urban Terrace. We did several things there, including things to eliminate water, to contain water, and so forth. Drain tile, excavate with positive drainage, catch basins, gravel, etc. And just wanted to kind of go through a timeline here and express some of my concerns with the water. And I'm happy to hear that there is some things going to be happening here to try to help that. But I wanted everybody to know some of the timeline here because I'm sure not everybody does know. In 2018, in the summer, I met with Joe at my house concerning water issues that were occurring there. And Joe may correct me if I'm wrong, but I believed at that time that his concern was in response to some neighbors that were concerned with water coming down off the hill, and they thought that it was coming directly, or that we were directly responsible for that. And so he and I met, and that was in the summer of 2018. September, and we had some discussion about that. September the 13th of 2018, I got an email from Mr. Giffen, and basically that email says, Joe Neary reached out to me and hinted you have some stormwater issues coming from Fairview. I don't know if the city can be of assistance, but I'd be happy to direct you to the proper entity if necessary. That's from Mr. Giffen. That was September of 2018. Okay. From 1997 to 2018, 21 years, we had very minimal issues up there, up there with water. Now, and I understand that, you know, we've had a lot of record rains and so forth, but for 21 years there weren't any. So in 2018, we began to get excessive erosion in one section of my property. It got progressively worse. Our thought was that that was a result of possible paving on Fairview and lack of curbs or whatever, but we didn't know, okay? So finally on April the 6th of 2019, we had enough. I sent an email with videos to every council member. I also sent it via Facebook Messenger to every council member to assure that everybody received that. Unfortunately, I had 2 council members that even responded, okay? And which is kind of disappointing because I at least felt like that I should have had more response from folks that are representing us that, you know, that we had a problem with. But regardless, anyway, that was sent to every council member, the mayor and Mr. Giffen. On April the 8th, I got an email back from Mr. Giffen stating that they would take another look at the problem, okay? Later that week, my neighbor, Greg Weatherstrom, and I, we went to look at the curbs on Fairview. We were trying to identify what is the problem because he and I both have lived there for a long time, and we had determined that it was not a natural occurrence, that there was something that was creating a creek, basically a trench in my yard that's 2 feet deep and really causing a problem. Coincidentally, when we went to look at that, when Greg and I were up on Fairview looking, you know, just trying to examine the situation, it was purely coincidence, but Mr. Giffen and Mr. Lucas happened to show up as a result of the email, and they were going to take a look. As he said, we'll be happy to take a look. He did that. I then took them to my property and I showed them the damage that was done. I took Mr. Giffen down into my office and I showed him additional videos of basically just floods coming coming into our property, and it was flooding my basement. It was just not a good situation. On or about May the 6th, I decided to walk up into the woods because we had determined, when I was with Mr. Giffen and Mr. Lucas, we had determined that the curbs were in fact not the primary problem, okay? So we were trying to determine, okay, what has caused this all of a sudden to happen? So on or about May the 6th, during a torrential downpour, just a terrible downpour, I walked up into the woods, camera in hand, and started looking, started trying to figure out what was going on. What I found was relatively disturbing, but the first thing that I saw in this torrential downpour was a garden hose that was leading from an adjacent property owner down into our property up on the hill that was buried or hidden, basically. And so that concerned me, so I followed that to the end. Fortunately, it wasn't hooked up to anything, but it had been at some point in time. Then what I found was two property owners that were on Fairview that were dispersing water onto the back property lines of adjacent property owners, and that concerned me. So I scheduled a meeting with Michael. I showed him what I had, pretty much said, here's what I think. He then said, okay, he reached out to me and said, Phil has been on vacation, like 8 days later. He got back to me and said, haven't forgot you, Phil's been on vacation, we'll discuss this and I'll get back to you. Okay, that's the very last thing that I heard from Mr. Giffen, and I did hear through the grapevine that I guess the resolution was, we can't do anything, okay? Now, disappointed, I try, I'm trying to be a good neighbor and try to not create a stir, but disappointed that I did not get that return phone call or anything. But I want to say this. After looking into this, and I gave this to Michael Giffen, when I sat in his office, the ordinance 51.42, disposal where connection is impractical, basically it says, one portion of this says, no stormwater shall be discharged toward or in the immediate vicinity of a property line. The termination of the line shall be marked so that during final inspection, city inspector may or may not approve. Anyway, it's ordinance 51.42. We believe, myself and a third party that has reviewed this, we believe that those two property owners are in violation of that, and what I'm asking for basically is, I think that that's a simple fix, and I don't know what event happened in that last 2 years. I know it was a heavy rain, but I believe that something happened. What we found was those two property owners had put corrugated pipe on their downspouts and had run several feet of corrugated pipe to the end of their property, and they were disposing of that water onto our property, which ultimately was causing us a problem. Now, not just us, but I believe that it contributes to some of the flooding down on Urban Terrace, because if you all have seen some of the videos of my yard, I believe that that's also part of the problem. But I also think it's an easy fix, and initially I told Michael Giffen that I wanted to address it in his office before I addressed it here, until I found out that apparently there's some discussion as to whether it is or it isn't a problem that can be fixed. I believe that the city, I believe that Mr. Lyles or somebody could very easily go to those two property owners and without confrontation and say, hey, you may be in violation of this. There's a right way and a wrong way to dispose of water. You're not only causing other property owners damage, but you are also causing or contributing, potentially contributing to a problem down on Urban Terrace with not only my property, but several other residents down Urban Terrace along the way that have to endure that same problem and/or the problems at the bar or at the underpass. So I am just hopeful that somebody will look at that ordinance and read it the way we do, because I believe that that water is being disposed of in violation of that ordinance. So that's all, and I appreciate y'all listening. You guys know how to track me down if there's any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dills.
I'd like to express my thoughts on that, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I know you created a task force. I would suggest that your task force go up and see the problem, because I've seen the videos, I've seen it personally, and I know what that ordinance says. So there is a problem. I think Mr. Dills expressed it right, because it's not only causing a problem with him, but it's causing a problem with Urban Terrace. Now, everybody knows there was some flooding down on the underpass. This could be a contributing factor, so it's just not his property. It's everyone that lives on Urban Terrace, and I'm telling you what that, I've read that ordinance, and I'm telling you, I think Mr. Dilts is correct in his interpretation. So my suggestion that you have your task force go check this out, do a rainstorm.
I gotta say something. My wife thinks I'm nuts because every time it rains hard, I jump in the car. I've been up there on Fairview. Yeah, at first I thought that was the problem. It's not. Okay, the curbing. And I've been up and down Urban Terrace and seen what's coming down his yard. So, and a lot of these issues are legal issues, so that's why I can't comment too much on as far as the liabilities on these. It has been investigated, at least by myself and the task force. Any other steps are up to the city attorney and administration at this point. We've got other problems around town too that we're trying to address with limited funds. I'm hoping, we've been pushing for a long time for this SD1 resolution up on Belmont and on Urban Terrace. I'm hoping that resolves some of that issue. I know that's below your property. But I'm out there when it's raining, and we've identified and fixed quite a few easy fix issues around town because of that. It's not been ignored, Tom. It has not.
I didn't say it was ignored. I believe that that is what I am specifically saying is that I have pictures and videos showing that, and I'm not trying to throw neighbors off, I'm trying to be a good neighbor, but it's costing me thousands of dollars, and it is very obvious that by accident, possibly, those property owners are dispersing water in a manner that they're not permitted to under that ordinance. And, you know, I don't want it to get to a part where you keep saying that's a legal thing. I don't want it to get to be a legal thing. If it had to, it would, but I don't want that to have to happen. I just want somebody to go there and say, hey, look, there's these corrugated pipes that are attached to the downspouts that are run, you know, 40 feet back behind their house, and they're disposing of water onto adjacent property owners, which it clearly says in that ordinance that that shall not be permitted. So that's my concern, is I think it might be something, I don't believe they even know. The homeowners up there probably don't even realize that what they're doing. And while I could go knock on the door and be a good neighbor, I just think it could be easily solved as, hey, you may be in violation here, folks. We're trying to, you know, maybe you can just put this in your drains, you know, put the storm water back into your underground drains, or whatever event took place 2 years ago that's causing this. Help us out here, figure it out. That's all I'm saying, because at this point, I can't do anything, because the more money I spent, more money gets washed down over there.
Mr. Dilts, I'd like to set up a meeting with you and Mr. Lyles to make sure that the ordinances are being followed, respecting your property and all the property below you. So certainly respect you and respect your problem. So if we can set up a meeting, Mr. Lyles, I'm sure we'll put that on the calendar. for you to, it's hard to predict when the rains are gonna come and for everyone to meet at the same place at the same time. I know Mr. Muir and myself do a lot, but yes, we will set up a meeting about that.
Right, thank you. And it doesn't have to be a meeting up there. I've got all the videos, I've got everything. I just feel like, to get to that, I had to literally walk up through the woods and try and figure out exactly. I followed the water, that's what I did. I finally followed the water, and, and that's what I found. And it wasn't a pleasant thing for my old butt to go up, trudging up there through the woods and, slick mud, but I did because I was tired of paying all the money out. So, but I'll be glad to do that. I just, myself and my third party has looked at that and said, yes, that is a potentially direct, violation of that ordinance. So that's why I'm here. I want it to be resolved without having to get into a big bunch of the legal mess.
We know you as a neighbor, and we understand.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
So, Mr. Wells, if you can please put on a couple different days that might work with Mr. Dilts as far as figuring out time that we can meet and talk about this. I'd appreciate that.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anything else, Mr. Dilts?
That's all I got. Thank you very much for your time.
Of course.
Well, my name's Terry Hatton. I'm graduated from Dayton in '78, played Army for almost 5 years, 2 weeks after graduating. Pretty much grew up on Maple Street, and presently live in Bellevue. Part of the Bellevue Vets, been chair, co-chair, a little bit of everything for over 21 years with the youth program down there. It's been kind of my heart and soul to give back to the kids, similar to myself growing up. Some of you may be aware of us receiving a grant for a field makeover. For 14 years, we've had a very good partnership with the Cincinnati Reds. They have done a lot for the kids in our community, Bellevue, Dayton, Campbell County. So what I was hoping to do is just introduce to you with some of the things that are going on. It's a two-sided form. I'm not here to ask for money. I'm doing that other places. But just kind of introducing it, I put the structure up. Typically, we house a lot of different programs, everything from t-shirt, single parents, dysfunctional families, kids, something to do. I was one of those kids. And then all the way to skill level, high school, select baseball, we try to do that, a lot of that. We've inherited the youth football program several years ago when they lost their home at the high school field in Bellevue. We've had them there for forever, whatever it is. But at this point, the Reds awarded us back in October one of two of the 150th anniversary grants. And initially it was the backfield, those of you who are familiar with the property, which is the top right corner there. And eventually Phil Castellini decided he would like to move it to the front. Well, when it moved to the front, it went from I'll say a $650,000 makeover to $1.2 million. All right, and their theme is the Palace of the Fans, and they're putting this huge structure on the front field, synthetic infield. St. Elizabeth Healthcare is sponsoring the front field, so the whole infield will be, it would be a professional field, and they're putting in $250,000 towards that. It's cost us to have to relocate our volleyball courts, put new lighting in. I mean, it's really turning out really nice. Between now and the 15th of August, there's a lot of work going on. We will continue to do what we do in the community. We have recently, with the Reds, we do what they call a Joe Morgan League. And the Joe Morgan League is geared towards helping, I'll say, the kids play baseball. Okay, and they do a lot with sponsoring that. They fund it. I feel as if the Vets has been a kind of regional hub for what we do, and we want to continue to do that. So I'm here to kind of introduce that. Now the middle field will get repositioned, and we're dedicating that field to Russell Madden. Now the other part of that, I don't know if any of you are familiar with Russell. Russell was one of our kids, KIA. And we are going to have a monument there reflecting Russell. And then his father, Marty, sponsors approximately 13 KIA signs that the state has positioned throughout Campbell County, Kenton County, and Boone County. And he does a few fundraisers, a golf outing, and things like that to generate some funding so he can maintain them signs and put flags and stuff on them. So we will showcase those KIAs on that middle field. And those 4, 5, and 6-year-olds, because it's going to be 50-foot bases, it's going to be lit up, it's going to be dedicated to T-ball coach pitch. So when the kids come up here, they're going to see some history of veterans, mostly KIAs. And then the volleyball courts are going to be, still going to be asphalt, but we're going to squeeze them in the outfield and put new volleyball courts in and put some lights on them. And we're going to be dedicating that to one of the Hall of Fame coaches from Bellevue High School. So, you know, we're trying to connect some of the history. They built a press box on third baseline of the front field. It's a multi-level press box that's dedicated to the Gretchen family. Myself, I really wasn't aware of Leo Gretchen and you know, his son, who was a reporter. So, you know, we've got a lot of things going on, a lot of things to do. One of the things that I'll be working with some of the businesses, some of the things in the community, we've had a few projects that have fallen off the radar because the funding has gotten tight. We've raised, I will say with the Reds' help, and a lot of major corporations, Duke, and as you can see, some of them that have bellied up, $980,000. So we're like $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 short of cleaning up a few things that we're looking to do. So we're doing some sponsor packets and generating some things like that. The Vets has invested $150,000 into this project. Luckily, we have the funding to put into the project, but that's what our tag into it. A lot of the unions, bricklayers, pipe fitters, electrical, have been upfront donating material, donating, I mean, it's just amazing how some of the community has come together to help us with things. It's probably easily, you know, the zoo has given us $20,000 worth of landscaping and their expertise. That typically it's $50,000, it's costing about $20,000. So there's a lot of that going on, but I wanted to come up and just kind of, hey, Dayton, we're here, you know, if we can help any way, you know, if we can connect with your recreational park and, you know, partner up, if there's something that we can do from the Bellevue Vets, we're in, you know, you know, we've had some rough times and we've had some good times. And rough times, I volunteered to be president, and we challenge and we work through it. And the good times, you know, I kind of stay out back with the kids and drink a couple beers here and there. But you know, at the end of the day, I just wanted to say we're here and we appreciate, you know, the community, because it's been lots of little things over the years. You know, kids pay $20 to play baseball for 12 weeks. You know, businesses write $150 or $175 check to buy their T-shirts and hats. And when you blend all that in, it has kept us going for 50-something years. We will be celebrating our 75th anniversary next year, so we're going to do some things with that. We're hoping to do a carnival and things like that, but you know, at the end of the day, I'm a Green Devil, and I'm here to, you know, to introduce it. And if there's questions or something we can do with the Vets, please reach out to me.
Terry, I got a question for you. The field that's going to be have artificial turf on it, is that the front field there?
Yes, the front field will have an
Will that field be able to use for girls softball? Because I know
what we're doing with that, yes, it can be, but because we have both programs and their season winds down, we're skinning this backfield, okay, like the front field presently is, and it's going to be designed for girls softball and for 12U and under.
The reason I ask, because I know that girls softball can't have a tournament around here because there's really no field that's, you gotta have the backstop certain place, you gotta have the walls and stuff, so I didn't know if that was gonna be, would that be available for?
Yes, sir, it's going to be for that. And we're already putting some of those types of tournaments on the calendar in the high school. But, you know, I mean, Duke Energy, for instance, came in, they took all the poles down, put all new poles up, took our old light fixtures down, gave us a great deal on some LCD lighting. It's going to glow like the stadium, so we're excited. But yeah, we feel like we're resetting the clock. So we've been doing this for 50-something years, a very new program of the 75 that it's been in existence. We're resetting the clock so we can continue to do it going forward. Any questions?
All right.
Thank you.
If anybody knows me, I think you know I'm a baseball nerd at heart. So very excited to see you working on this project. I know a lot of Dayton youth, maybe some older folks like myself,
Yeah.
might get a chance to play on this field. So
Definitely.
we're really excited to be a partner with Bellevue and yourself on this project.
Yeah, anything we can do, man, just reach out and let us know. We're here to help.
That's great. Thank you
All
very
right?
much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Podium is still open for anybody who'd like to address council. Podium is closed. Mayor's report. I'd like to invite Mr. Bob Yoder. Please come up here.
I do this.
I know, man. I already have these conversations. You know, it's not often. Jacket's pretty?
I do that with this jacket, it's weird. I love the jacket.
Extra fun.
How's this? It's not often we get to thank somebody who works for the city for the diligent work they do. And it's a pleasure to be able to do that. Bob has worked with the city for how many years now?
2.5 years.
2.5 years. In that time, he has accrued over $1.25 million in projects through grants that he's written through and has brought into the city. And that's impressive. Those types of things have built different projects around the city, and we're working on a Safer Route to Schools grant that will bring sidewalks up Dayton Pike so kids who live in that neighborhood can walk down to Lincoln Elementary School, Dayton High School safely. So we don't get to say these things often, and usually when I reach into a cooler,
A cold one?
I want a cold one. It's not the right place, maybe later. But I would like to present you with this, sir.
Oh, thank you.
And this is an award, and I'll read it to everyone. It says, on August 6th of 2019, I'm presenting to Bob Yoder in recognition for his work in securing more than $1 million from the city of Dayton, Kentucky, which has greatly benefited the city of Dayton. So Bob.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, I really. Well, I enjoy this, and I hope people understand we do this. We've done, like I said, about 1.25 million. These projects take time, but it's really kind of a passion of mine. Total over the years, I've probably done over $15 million for cities in northern Kentucky, especially riverfront commons and sidewalks are a big passion of mine. I really appreciate this. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Unbutton it. And that's all the mayor's report is today. I'd like to make an approval of the minutes for the July 2nd, 2019 meeting. You want to make a motion?
So moved. I will second that.
By Mr. Volter and Mr. Baszler. All in favor?
Aye.
Abstained.
Abstention by Mr. Burns. Now on to the ordinance and ordinances. Orders. The second reading, ordinance number 2019, number 14, and creating a new chapter of the Code of Ordinances to prohibit certain discriminatory practices within the city. Ms. Miller.
City of Dayton, Kentucky, ordinance number 2019, number 14. An ordinance creating a chapter of the City of Dayton Code of Ordinances to prohibit certain discriminatory practices within the city. This ordinance creates a new chapter in the City of Dayton Code of Ordinances to prohibit certain discriminatory practices. It includes several specific definitions, making it unlawful to treat a person differently based upon race, color, national origin, sex and/or gender identity, religion, age, and/or sexual orientation with regards to public accommodations, housing, financing services, real estate, and employment. There are several specific and general exceptions outlined in the ordinance. An enforcement procedure through either the Kentucky Commission on Human Rights or the city, depending on the type of discrimination that occurs, is also included. In addition, victims of violations of this ordinance can enforce their rights under the ordinance through a civil action in the local courts or general jurisdiction. This ordinance further makes it unlawful for an offender to obstruct the process or retaliation. Penalty for violation of this ordinance shall be in accordance with the city's civil fine penalty schedule. And this is the second reading.
For the second reading, do I have a motion to accept ordinance number 2019, number 14?
I'll make that motion.
Member Baser has made the motion. Do I have a second? Second by Member Lynn. It is open for discussion or comments.
Yes, Mayor, although I think it's a great ordinance, as I read this ordinance, it leaves some problems I'm concerned with, and with one of them it says it will come to the city administrator for adjudication, and then it will go to city council. The question is, does it go to the full city council, or does it go to a select few or a committee that's been appointed? And the reason I ask this question is, if it goes to the full city council and it just so happens to come down to a 3-3 vote, does the mayor break the vote, or does the city administrator break the vote? So, and I think the ordinance is good. I don't have a problem with the ordinance, but I have a problem with the way it was structured.
City administrator makes a report recommendation brought to council, and the minute time mayor breaks time.
It doesn't say that here, that's why.
Yeah, that's just a general procedure for the city council whenever you're in lieu of a tie on a motion. Is the mayor.
So it's going to be a full city council, and the mayor will
break the tie.
I gotta be honest with you.
As we do with any other motions or anything else.
I know, but I'm trying to go by the letter of the law, Tom, and that's not what it
No, that's
says.
the same rules that we use on any other motion that we approve or deny here. It's if there's a tie vote, the mayor breaks the tie.
Any other comments, Mr. Burns?
I have concerns.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you bringing those. Any other comments concerning this ordinance?
I think it's a great ordinance. I think it's well overdue, not only from the city of Dayton, but for every other city in the state of Kentucky, Commonwealth of Kentucky. Looking forward to passing.
And that's the problem I have with one of the problems I have with this ordinance is, this is sad that we have to do this, that a city individually has to do it. We'll be only the 13th city in the Commonwealth, well, 12th.
Who's counting?
Out of hundreds and hundreds of cities.
419.
Who's counting? And 20 years since Covington's adopted it. And it's just a commentary on my part. I think it's sad that we have to do this at the city level. And I hope, I'll probably make some enemies in Frankfurt, I don't care. I hope this carries up to the state level too, so that every other city doesn't have to go through this.
I just have one other question, and I think it's a great ordinance too, but my question is, have we had problems in the past? Because if we did, we haven't been made aware of, and if we did have problems, we should have been addressed 20 years ago.
If I could talk to that point, Mr. Burns, a lot of times when these ordinances are on law, those complaints aren't made up, aren't approached. If there's not a law being broken, you don't report that a law's been broken. So this gives us the opportunity to make sure that everyone's being treated fairly.
I'm agreeing with you, Ben. I'm just saying, if there was a problem in the past, we should have been made aware of, and should have taken, this should have been resolved years ago.
Any other comments? Can I please get a roll call for ordinance number 201914?
Member Baisler?
Aye.
Member Burns?
I would.
Member Lynn?
Aye.
Member Volter?
Aye.
Member Neer?
Absolutely aye.
I'd like to announce that ordinance number 2019, number 14, passed unanimously in the city of Dayton. Now on to first readings. Number 2019, number 10 Romeo. Cost share agreement with sanitation number 1.
City, sorry.
That's okay. I messed up too.
City of Dayton, Kentucky Municipal Order Number 2019-10R. Municipal order authorizing the execution of a cost share agreement with the sanitation district number 1.
That was the first reading.
That is an order,
It's
Mayor,
an order.
so
Okay.
that would be a motion.
Yeah, I messed up too. Do you have any comments on number 2019, number 105?
Council, this was the project I spoke about on the catch basins at the same time that SD wants to work on Delmar.
I want to make that motion to approve 2019-10R. We've been fighting this problem for a long time, but we're having a resolution to it. Second.
Motion was made by Mr. Neary and the second by Mr. Walter. Do we have any comments? Roll call.
Member Burns.
Aye.
Member Lynn.
Aye.
Member Bolter.
Aye.
Member Neary.
Aye.
Member Baker.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Order number 2019, number 11R, the additional grant funds for the Riverfront Commons project.
City of Dayton, Kentucky Resolution Number 2019-11R. A resolution authorizing the city to enter into an agreement with the Transportation Cabinet for additional grant of funds for the Riverfront Commons project.
Motion's been read. We have a motion to accept 2019-11R.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Walter,
Second.
second by Member Lynn. Comments?
Yeah, I'll just quickly add, so the bidding for Riverfront Commons Phase 1 went over the amount of grant funds that we had by about $15,000, but we were able to secure the difference in those funds from the state transportation cabinet. The only thing is we had to pay the 80-20 match, so instead of having to cover the full amount, I think we're only going to be responsible. I don't have the exact number, but it's somewhere between $2,000 and $3,000 to cover the gap.
Comments? Any other comments? Motion's been made, a second has been made as well. Can I get a roll call vote for 2019, number 11R?
Member Burns.
Aye.
Member Lynn.
Aye.
Member Bolter.
Aye.
Member Neary.
Aye.
Member Baker.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Order number 2019, number 12R, declaring city-owned property as a surplus.
City of Dayton, Kentucky Municipal Order Number 2019-12R. A municipal order declaring city-owned real property as surplus and authorizing the mayor to dispose of real property consisting of a vacant lot commonly located at 1019 Maple and property at 916 6th Avenue.
Do I have any a motion to accept?
I'll make the motion to declare surplus property. I'll second.
Motion's been made by Member Lenz and second by Member Neary. Do I have any comments? Can I have a roll call, please?
Member Lynn.
Aye.
Member Bolter.
Aye.
Member Neary.
Aye.
Member Baker.
Aye.
Member Burns.
Aye.
The ayes have it unanimously. For a first reading, Ms. Ledger, can I please have a first reading of ordinance number 2019, number 15?
City of Dayton ordinance number 2019, number 15. An ordinance requiring that the delivery of unsolicited written material to a premises be placed on the front porch through a mail slot securely attached to the front door between the interior and exterior of the front door and a distribution box, or personally with the owner occupant, and further classified a violation of this ordinance as a civil offense with a maximum civil fine for violation in the amount of $200 per violation. And that will be a first reading.
First reading. Thank you, ma'am. And that is the end of the second readings, first readings, and the orders. So that brings us to the city administrator's report. Mr. Giffen.
Thank you, Mayor. First thing I'll ask for in relation to the public hearing we held on municipal road aid funds for the two projects, I'd like to ask for a motion at this point not to exceed $50,000 in municipal road aid funds for the two projects I previously mentioned.
That goes back to the public hearing that we had earlier. Do we have a motion to agree to Mr. Giffen's $50,000 ask?
I'll make that motion, and it's the urban terrorism issue.
Correct.
I'll second that motion.
Motion's been made by Mr. Neary and seconded by Mr. Baszler. Any comments concerning? Roll call, please.
Member Bolger?
Aye.
Member Neary?
Aye.
Member Baszler?
Aye.
Member Burns?
Aye.
Member Lynch?
Aye.
The ayes have it.
I've got three handicap parking requests. First is for 430 3rd Avenue. The applicant meets all the requirements as set forth by ordinance. I'd like to ask for a motion to approve.
Motion's been made. I'd like to accept the handicap spaces.
I'll second.
Second by member Neary. Or first by member Neary.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought-
Yeah,
You threw me on the motion. I'm sorry. I thought-
Motion was made by member Neary. Second
Second.
by member Coulter. Comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Passed.
Second one is for 1005 Maple Avenue. Again, the applicant meets all the requirements as set forth by ordinance. I'd like to ask for a motion to approve.
I will make that motion.
I'll second.
So Joe does have a second this time. The motion was made by Mr. Baszler. All in favor?
Aye.
Comment on this, sir?
Yes, sir.
I'd really like to see Maple Avenue above 10th Street there is a real parking problem, mostly because of multiple vehicles in a home and they only have one spot out front. Chief and Mr. Wiles, I'd like to see some more. I know there's been some changes in how you can mark cars that have been parked for a Supreme Court kind of shafted us on that. I'd like to see some enforcement, if we could, on disabled vehicles, especially Ohio tag vehicles, especially in that area of Maple Avenue. Some of the people up there are having to park down by the football field and walk around because somebody else took their parking space and never moves. So this is going to take up another space reserved for a handicapped individual. I understand that. But I think there's going to be some pushback from other neighbors saying, why can't we park there too? I think cleaning out some of the cars up there may be helpful.
Thank you, Mr. Neary. Mr. Hanfeld, I'm sure you heard. The last request for a handicap at 922 Maple Avenue.
Did they vote on that one?
Oh, well, you get a, I'm sorry.
They voted on
They did.
1005.
Okay, there was a comment. Okay. I got another one on Maple, 922. The applicant on the application said that they do have off-street parking. When I investigated it, it did not look like they did. I double-checked it on the aerial. So I'm assuming this may be just a typo on the application. I'll double-check it, but for now, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve pending that they don't have off-street parking. If that's not the case, I'll come back. But for now, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve pending that they don't have off-street parking.
Michael, what side of the street is that?
It's on the west side. So if you're coming up the hill, it's on the right.
If it has off-street parking, you have to go through the alley, and I don't know, I don't think they do.
Didn't look like their neighbor had a large.
There's one or two of them there, but I don't think they have off-street
I'm
parking.
pretty sure, I think it's a typo. I looked at it both in person and on the aerials. I think it might just be a mistake. Pending that that's not a mistake, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve. I'll double check.
I'll make that motion.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Motion is made by Mr. Volter, Mr. Neary, second by Mr. Volter. All in favor?
Aye.
And the last thing I have, there's going to be, on October 1st, there's going to be a change to the trash pickup cycle in the city of Dayton. We actually met with CSI a year ago. At and then they just recently brought it back up. It's going to change for both Bellevue and Dayton. Instead of one-day trash pickup, they're going to be here, I believe it's Tuesday, Wednesday, and Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays. So those, there's going to be two sections of town that your trash day will change. CSI Republic will be sending out flyers sometime in mid-September. We kind of wanted to start getting ahead of that. I'm going to post a link as soon as possibly tomorrow that shows the map of the community and which sections of the community are going to be designated on which days. So you can go in and check to see where your property falls, but be on the lookout for a flyer coming from Republic sometime in the middle of September. The effective date that they're shooting for right now is October 1st. We'll be sure to publish this as much as we can on social media and on the website. And as I said, there'll be an interactive link hopefully published in the next couple days where you can go in and check. But we want to start, go ahead and get that out there. That's all I have for my report, unless anybody has any questions for me.
Any questions for Administrator Giffen?
Hey, Michael, you had spoke earlier about wanting to get authorization for use of road aid funds.
Yes.
I think this would be the time to ask for that motion.
We did have.
We actually approved that.
I did, so I did that first, yeah.
But that's pretty important to note that trash days will be changing a little bit for some folks. We work with the haulers and try to make this as easy for everybody as possible. So pay attention and ask for help if needed.
I do have a question for Mr. Giffen, just to clarify something we spoke about earlier. You said that with the road funds that we get from the state, right now we're averaging roughly $96,000 a year, $8,000 per month, and that's out of the gas tax. And I believe back when you were on council, Kathy, there were years where there were over $200,000, $300,000 coming from the state for road and bridge. The reason I say that is, yeah, some of the streets need to be fixed and infrastructure needs to be fixed. This is one of the reasons we can't always do what we want.
We have to be very careful of what we're spending our money on, especially given that with the task force on stormwater, we're kind of taking a harder look. That's why we're being a little bit light this fall, so that the group can kind of wrap their heads around what maybe are the important road projects that tackle stormwater. So we need to build up the fund a little bit, as Joe said, because we're not receiving as much money as we used to. We have to be a little smarter how we're using the fund.
And I applaud you and Mr. Lucas for the arrangements, the cooperative arrangement you made with SD1 and Northern Kentucky Water District on that issue up there, and that saved us a lot of money to get this much needed project done.
Rick deserves a lot of credit. He works really closely with them, and he really looks for every opportunity he can to find these avenues where we can co-own the projects.
Thank you.
Anything else for me?
Thank you, Mr. Gibbon. Now I'd like to move along to the department head report. It's kind of a round robin. Going off tonight with fire. Chief Atkins.
Thank you, Mayor. You all received my report. I don't have a lot to add to that, and overdoses and cut those in half this month, so that's a good thing. I do want to make mention, last week, the guys got ran pretty ragged with some related calls on the Tuesday. And then Wednesday, we had a difficult call. We had somebody got struck by a train in Bellevue. And it was difficult because of where it was actually located, and the guys had to hike basically about 3 blocks to get to him. And then once they treated him, extricated him out, it was just a tough call. They worked really well together with the police department, and I just want to kind of make mention that the guys really busted their butts the last couple of weeks also. So they always do, but just kind of want to make mention of that. Beyond that, I don't have a lot to add.
Duly noted. I know I saw firsthand your guys working hard on the storm water that we had this past week, so I appreciate your hard work on that.
That's all them. I can't take any credit for that.
Well, we appreciate your team.
Chief, I want to pass a compliment on to your staff that there was an incident, retired Covington firefighter succumbed to a heart attack, but they worked diligently for over an hour, and I know the wife of the gentleman passed away. She passed compliments on to you, so you did an outstanding job. So keep up the great work, you and your staff.
I'll pass it along. Thank you, sir.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Mr. Hatfield, I have you next on my agenda.
Y'all have my report in mind?
That's pretty much it. Any questions?
How's staffing? 100% staff?
I don't want to jinx it.
Sorry.
Yeah, we haven't had a change in a while, so it's good news. So we just need to keep doing what we're doing.
That's good leadership.
Yeah, I like to say.
Any other questions? Again, I want to give kudos to your staff for keeping people away from down power lines the other day, because I was almost one of them. I was driving up to check them out, and they're like, hey, there's down power line. And so your guys, they're amazing, so thanks for all your hard work. Mr. Yoder, for your economic development report, sir.
Yeah. We're getting some activity in the CCAP program. Just want to see some ideas of money. It's been a little quiet for the past few months, but we've got a new fiscal year. We have some money in the budget. We'll be moving forward. We're currently working on applications for facade structural improvement over at 301 6th Avenue. Doing a rental abatement for 620 6th Avenue. That's going to be the new location announced last night on Facebook. Buenos House Cafe, that's Alejandra Flores. She's been started off here when we did the Food Truck Thursdays 2 years ago. So she's been a big fan of Dayton, and we've been working with her for the past 2 years. Find that. And also got a rental abatement agreement today from New Washington, the former Bucks Barbecue, corner of 6th and Berry that closed down at the end of last month. He's still over at Manhattan Harbor. So we're working on that. Our Main Street meeting was canceled last Tuesday because of a lack of power. It's tomorrow at 7 p.m. At Hometown Heroes. Everybody's welcome. A little review of what we've done last month on Board of Architecture Review. We approved 2 painting projects along in the historic district, so they're moving forward. The Board of Architecture Review is working on bylaws. We looked and we didn't have any. So we kind of take a look at the Main Street bylaws, and the board has gone through and we've done some editing on that. We'll look at that in our next meeting. I want to say check out the article in the Dayton Community News by Bob Schrage on Spears Hospital. What?
Our Instagram.
Oh, yeah, and our Instagram. Christina, what is our Instagram account?
It's Dayton_VAR capitalized,
Yeah.
and we've been showcasing pictures of different historic buildings around town.
So, that's the chair of our Board of Architectural Review. She set up the Instagram, and thank you for that. Grant, again, Mayor and Council, I thank you for the honor. I mentioned that we got $260,000 from KYTC to do well called the missing link on Dayton Pike. Fort Thomas is coming down from North Fort Thomas, and our project is going up, and there was a missing link there, basically from Chateau Ridge to, I'll say, Lincoln Road. We've done very well on presentation grants, and Michael and I talked about applying for this. I wasn't confident that we did it. We got one a couple months ago for the bus stops. Usually you don't get them right in a row like that. We've done, I'm not going to say it because I don't want to jinx it, but we've done very well. So I was glad to see that. TAP SRTS, we're moving forward. We have entered into the right-of-way phase with Ben Robert. We've got approval for that, and I want to give a call out to Larry Brown in the governor's office. He comes to our South Bank City Manager meeting, and last month I kind of sat down to him and told him the story of what we've been going through and the challenges. Larry made some phone calls, and all of a sudden, the delays disappeared. And it got approved. Everything's gone through. All the signatures have been done. Ben Robin and Associates is starting on it, and they expect to be done in 4 to 6 weeks. So that will move on, and then the next phase is to go in and hopefully go to construction. We're working on that. KYTC came to us and said they had some concerns about the street lighting
the existing lighting that's already there, and that might be too much light. So GRW, Duke Energy, DKYTC are working on that. So we hope to have that resolved in time, so when we finish right away, we go into the next phase, which is getting approved for construction, we'll have that all done. So, crossing my fingers, we are moving forward.
What's your estimate on the time frame on that?
I am not going to estimate, Joe. I wish I could. When I
No, I
started-
mean, the right-of-way, waiting for this right-of-way approval seemed to be a big hang-up down in Frankfurt, now that that's done.
I expect our part of what we have to do to be done in 6 weeks. Okay? And that will have to be approved by Frankfurt. I will not make any estimates on how long it takes Frankfurt.
I'm just looking at the construction season, we're already in
I'm
August.
hoping that we can put it out to bid in February. That's a good time to put things out to bid. It really is, that tends would be when you get your best prices. So late winter, early spring, I really am going to try to put it out to bid for that. That, in my experience, is the best time to put something out to bid. And so that's what I'm going to hope for. That's what I'm going to push for. That's where if there's a hang up, I will call Mr. Brown again, because he got things moving for me. So I want you to know, guys, I understand the frustration we all have with this. It's not that we haven't pushed for it. So others, I want to talk about August 8th. We're having a ribbon cutting dedication for Aaron's Way. That'll be a Riverfront Commons Trail. We finished the first of our 3 phases of that. Private First Class Aaron was a winner of the Navy Cross from Dayton, Kentucky. And he actually had a ship built after him. There's a good article in River City News about it and on our website about its history. So that is August 8th at 6 p.m. north end of O'Fallon. That's River City Riverboats parking lot on the east side where the start is. Please come on down. We've got a historical marker we're going there, some nice street signs. Some families going to be there, Ben?
Yes, we have some of their family members.
So good. So I think it'll be a nice event. I think it's really great that we're honoring one of our war heroes there. Another thing I want to mention, tomorrow at Lincoln Elementary School in the gym is Ready Fest. And part of our efforts working with the Cincinnati Reds for Dayton night at Cincinnati Reds, September 6th. Get your tickets now. They're having one of the mascots show up at Ready Fest. So from noon to 2, that's going to be kind of a fun thing. I think the kids will really like it. It's a really good chance. The Reds have been very helpful. Gave us a lot of stuff. Museum for the window. I also want to talk about this model of the USS Erin that was hand-built by a Dayton resident who passed recently, Robert Pendry. His family donated it to the Dayton Heritage Museum, and after the ribbon cutting, we'll have a little reception, cookies and lemonade. But if you haven't had a chance to see this model, it's beautiful. I mean, hand-built, big, wonderful. It's probably one of the best parts of our collection, I think, right now. So I'm going to add that. And lastly, I just wanted to say, hey, the yard sale and Dayton Flea Market went very well this year. For the first time in 2 years, we didn't have rain. I can't do anything about the heat. It's summer, but we didn't have rain. Also, the next Dayton Flea is scheduled for Saturday, August 17th. You can go to dayton.ky.com/Dayton Flea to sign up. Call the Silly Building at 491-1600, or just show up that day. It's $10. Get a chance to clear out your basement, or if you sell something, you get a chance to bring some people inside. So that's all I have. Is there any questions from council?
Questions from Mr. Yoder? Thank you for your report, sir. Last but certainly not least, here, you stood up, you already know. Mr. Lyles, your code enforcement.
Mayor, council, good evening. You all have a copy of my report, just a little synopsis of the numbers. There were 110 letters that went out for the month of July. 31 were citations and 79 were violation letters. And then there were 11 additional grass invoices that were sent out via Public Works and the city department based on orders to cut grass for people who did not cut their grass in a timely fashion. So little kudos to Public Works. When I get them the order, they get the grass cut in a pretty good time based on the crew that they have. So I appreciate them as well. That's all I have. Any questions?
No questions? Thank you very much, Mr. Wells.
Thank you.
Correspondence.
I'm here, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Any petitions? No petitions? Unfinished business? Yes, sir.
Yeah. Last council meeting, we had a very brief discussion about branding.
Yes.
I did sit down with Michael for a meeting, and we tossed a few things around. But certainly some of the things we discussed will need the input and direction of the council. A couple of those things were, obviously we need a new branding motto, if you will, because the one we currently have does not reflect what is happening within our city, especially with our new development and new opportunities that are being presented. But beyond that, some of the things we talked about was some money in the budget to do some regional advertising, perhaps, that let people in Northern Kentucky and Greater Cincinnati know we are here and let them know about our city and what's transpiring in the city. We had that discussion, as well as probably some new signage at key portals coming into the city. So some of those things. But definitely wanted to bring it up again and get council's thoughts on where we proceed and what we need to do. Anybody?
Well, so since then, Member Baszler and I sat down and had a meeting. We discussed the logo. We met with Desky, the firm over in downtown Cincinnati. The resident who lives here is Doug. I won't butcher his last name, but I love Doug. Doug provided us with the logo that we're using now as our new logo, which is a piece of the branding. It's not obviously the whole branding. So we are moving forward with that. We need to find some money to find new signage on our way in. I agree with your advertising. What do you see as a next step?
Well, I think to piggyback what Jeff said a little bit, what we talked about was beyond just the updated seal, kind of what is the next step in the branding, and what is the tagline, what is it that we're trying to project. I think before we do anything regionally, we need to kind of come to grips with what that is, what we want to project before we start spending advertising. So I think that's the next step, is kind of taking what you did with the logo and then figuring out what that means and what kind of image we want to project for where the communities.
Do we want to bring some of our development partners into this process that might be able to help us defray some of the costs as well and get some of their message out as well?
You recommend another meeting?
Well, yeah, I definitely think we need to have another meeting of some of our minds to figure out, as I said, what it is we want to project. And I think that's a good idea of figuring out maybe who wants to be in that meeting. And, obviously, city council members, some administration, but maybe start to think about the people outside within the community that we want to weigh in on that. I guess that initial spot. That was my suggestion, is to take the next step before the advertising. Let's figure out what it is we're trying to project and what we want to say.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Any other unfinished business?
Mayor, I have one thing that I'll touch on. The last meeting, we had a discussion about salary increases for the employees. I did a salary survey, or kind of a salary report that I put together that everybody should have a copy of, that just kind of outlined kind of where everybody within the city fell in relation to the region, in relation to cities of comparable size and comparable budget. And from there, I made a couple recommendations on strategy that if we wanted to implement aggressive plans to catch up, what that would look like, or if we just wanted to take this on a year-to-year basis. I met with the Finance Committee. Tammy's not here tonight, but Denny met with us, so we kind of just ran through the report a little bit more intimately, looked at the numbers, what they meant. I kind of tossed around some of my worksheets on how I kind of got to some of the numbers, so we kind of played with that around a little bit. And they came up with a recommendation, I think, was to recommend to you all. What we did was we gave our employees 3% across the board, with the exception of, I think there were 4 employees that we gave a little bit more to because they were the lowest paid in the city. Our recommendation to the council was to bump that from 3 to 5% across the board, but keeping the ones that got the higher raise at that limit, because if we'd taken them to 5, they would have actually been less. So keeping that the same bump that we gave them, changing everybody else from 3 to 5. That was a recommendation. I just wanted to bring that up tonight to see if you all want to discuss that.
Yeah, I'd like to jump in on that one. We don't get the PVA assessment on our property values until mid-August. We got it. You got them already? I would like to see that and see what your recommendation is for the property tax rate first, before we, as much as I want to give our employees more money, because we want to keep the good employees, I don't want to raise the tax rate at all. So I'd really like to balance that out as much as we could before we make any decision on, before council makes any decision on that. Administrative decisions internally within the budget.
Michael, what did we set up as the costs of additional over and above the budget?
Yeah, about $25,000 to go from 3 to 5.
Yeah, I don't think we need to wait on that at all. If we move forward with what we recommended and take up the vote and get it started for the employees. I mean, $24,000. We sit here and spend more than that for other things.
We'll have to keep paying that.
Huh?
We'll have to keep paying that from year to year.
Right.
And that almost equals one of our lowest paid salaries, so that could be an extra man working the job, or, I don't know. I kind of agree with Joe just to see what the money is actually gonna look like before we.
We got good employees, and I think we all agree that we got good employees and we want to keep them. And I think that's, to me, they're low. They're very low on the totem pole with everybody in this area. And if we don't start paying them, they're going to leave and go to them jobs where people are going to pay them. And we got to start over. How long did it take you to find a seasonal public works employee?
Months. Yeah.
And I mean, these people aren't going to come here for that low pay either. So I think it's imperative that we go ahead and move on this and get their salaries up.
I have to agree with Denny on this issue. I mean, I've been an advocate all along for raising salaries for our workers, and I just think that if it's $24,000 to $25,000, even if PVA comes in flat, I still say we do it. I still say we can afford it in our budget. That's why we had the Finance Committee look at it. So.
Is the $24,000 strictly the salary, and does that include the roughly 30 to 40% that we'd also have to tack on for pension?
It includes salary and pension. The only thing it doesn't include was the FICA. So you could be looking at a couple thousand.
Okay.
But relatively speaking, it includes the salary
And the pensions. Thanks for that clarification, because people forget about it.
Do we need to make a motion on that?
We would need a motion, yeah.
I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and give the employees the 5% raise and the additional whatever for the 4 employees.
Motion's been made by Mr. Glenn. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second was made by Mr. Walter. Any further discussion concerning?
You've already run the numbers on this with the Finance Committee?
Yeah, we had a meeting about 2 weeks ago. The mayor was involved in it. I was talking to him. we looked at all the numbers we had, and very feasible to do.
I'll take your word on it, sir.
More comments concerning? Motion's been made, the second as well. Donna, can I please get a roll call?
Member Neary?
Aye.
Member Baszler?
Aye.
Member Burns?
Aye.
Member Lynn?
Aye.
Member Bolden?
Aye.
The ayes have it for the salary adjustment for city employees. Further Further unfinished business. New business.
Tacos.
Anybody have new business? Yes.
Do you know anything about the rationale for the railroad not renewing the VFW lease on the parking lot?
Mr. Lyles, do you have any information on the
All I
railroad not
really know
renewing?
is I spoke to the property lady that handles that area. And she gave me the impression that there really hasn't been a lease that's really been active for, they don't know how many years. The last thing that they had was, I think, was maybe 15 years old. And I don't think that will really change anything with it being railroad property. They hadn't been maintaining it. I think the city has been maintaining it. What we did get in addition to that is, I just received it today, but we received a reciprocation agreement that allows the police department and myself to do more enforcement on all of the railroad property, which will allow us to go on to that corner, which is where we had some issues, as you all well know, with vehicles being left there and maintaining. We can now take enforcement action immediately against people that are doing it, as opposed to taking it against the railroad. So I don't really think that it will change anything. But if they're interested, I think all they really have to do is reach back out to them and they'll renew it. I have the contact information. I think it's just because there haven't been any contact between the two entities in probably the last 10 to 12 years.
All right, let's try to arrange somebody to talk to you. I'll make sure that happens for the VFW, okay?
Sure.
I think actually, maybe it would be better, it may be better for the city to enter into a lease for that property. We're already maintaining it anyway. $1 a year lease for that property. We can use it for anything, for the VFW parking, for parades, whatever. The VFW may not have the resources to be able to pursue it. And right now, like you said, the city, somewhat maintains that CSX property there.
Does that leave us open to any liability issues?
Significant.
Oh, that's the issue? Okay. Then I don't argue with lawyers.
Any other new business?
I just wanted to comment, sir, I want to commend the administration with what happened in our namesake city this week. Classy move, sir, to put that letter out from the city of Dayton, Kentucky to the city of Dayton, Ohio, and to lower the flags at half-staff. I commend administration on that. That's classy. That's all I got, sir.
Thank you, sir. Any other new business? Do we have a reason for executive session?
No, Mayor.
Well, in closing, I want to say we did a lot of really good, really important things tonight. We showed our employees that they're appreciated, we showed our citizens that they're appreciated. I'd like to thank the council for all the hard work they've done over this last couple months in these things. I'd like to thank the feedback of the citizens for supporting us in these initiatives. I'd like to welcome everybody to go to tacos. We're hometown here in So, what's that?
You know what I'd like to do?
I'm listening, sir.
I move to adjourn.
Hold on, I ain't there 4 minutes. So, we get the motion to adjourn?
I think it's been made, I'll second it.
Motion made, seconded? All in favor?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.